end quote, thugs when we're not calling the police thugs too. That's not, that's a terrible argument. That's a terrible, terrible argument. See, because what's happening now is we as black people have attached thug to black people. Because the fact of the matter is, it's mostly black people that are out there looting and doing all this craziness. Like, you're never, ever, 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 ever going to show me that there's some sort of rational reasoning for doing it, for punishing people who had nothing to do with the thing that you call yourself being mad about. Where, in my opinion, a lot of people are just mad because they think they're supposed to be. I think you're mad and irate because you feel like you're supposed to be. You don't care about that kid. You know what I mean? You don't care about this happening. I read a list of names off yesterday of kids that weren't black, that were, as we would call them, brown, that the same thing happened to. Who the hell marched for them? I happen to know the kid here. No one did anything. Not a damn thing. The kid that right here in Lilburn pulled up in a guy's driveway looking for his friend. The GPS took him to the wrong house. That happens to me all the time. People call me for directions after their GPS has taken them to the other side of the main street that my neighborhood is on. All the time. So they pull up in the driveway. This old white dude walks out and just starts bussing. Shoots this dude in the head. Didn't say anything. Yeah, they gave this dude a year probation and a $500 fine. Now, you want to be real about something? How many people would you kill? How many people do you know that you would kill if you knew all you were going to get is $500? You're going to have to give up $500 and not get in any more trouble for a year. Yeah, chances are a lot of you would be like, yo, here's $5,000. I got a couple people on this list. Yeah, exactly. You know, but no one cared. No one bothered to care, I guess. And before I move on to my next point, I want to make sure that I tell y'all the kid's name. Jesus, before we move on today, before we move on to on this day, I want to make sure I find this kid's name and I say it to you guys because it's important. It's important that this name, that he just didn't go forgotten. Excuse me. His name was Rodrigo Diaz, a kid in Gwinnett County, Georgia. That's his name. Remember that. All right. So back to Charlemagne and Bob Costas and the guys. It's just a funny, a funny dynamic I was looking at. And when it was over, Charlemagne, like, he dapped Bob up like a bruh. He like dapped him and pulled him in tight and hugged him. But I think my position on it, my position on this is we've got to disarm people with all that foolishness, man, because it's a smokescreen. Because if you're worried about that word thug, if that thing has arisen again after two Super Bowls ago, it was mentioned. If it's because apparently President Obama used the term thug in describing these looters. The mayor of Boston, she also used the word thug in describing them. But what you're doing is, it's almost like, if I drop a pin on the ground, and at the very same time, a butterfly blooms out of his cocoon in my backyard. You're trying to make it a synonymous thing, like, because I dropped my pin, it caused that butterfly to bloom. No, it just happened at the same time. It just happened to be that all the people that were doing this were black. And don't tell me the whole thing about the white people in Kentucky not being called thugs when they're doing the same thing in anger for their team being lost. Yeah, but here's the thing. Things ain't fair. There are double standards everywhere. You know, this whole concept that a man should never hit a woman, but no one ever says a woman should never hit a man. Except me, I'm the dude that's always saying, everybody, keep your damn hands to yourself. Stop. Be adults. Have conversation. Use your words and have dialogue. Keep your damn hands to yourself. That encompasses everybody, men, women, and children. Because that's when we learned it, when we were children. Now all of a sudden, it's become a thing. When it's always been one, but now all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, domestic violence. creepos like Mark Schlereth. I didn't even really understand domestic violence until I saw that Ray Rice tape. Well, you're an idiot. They need to fire you immediately. If you're that stupid, you need to be fired immediately. Now, like I was saying earlier about the term thug. Funny thing is, I talked about the mobsters being called thugs or labeled as thugs, and then the Tupac thing happened. Thug life, baby. And then young African American men began to label themselves thugs. But not never. Initially, the N-word was a name that was I guess I could say thrusted upon us. And over time, although people like Jason Whitlock don't believe this is true, the word's been flipped. Like Rob will call me all the time, like, yeah, my N-word, what up? Is he being racist to me? Nah, not at all. The connotation of the word, it's called etymology. Etymologists talk about stuff like, where words started to where they are now. People don't even understand things like this. Now, I'm going to say this to you before I move on. There's a term that we use, and we use it very, very liberally. That joke that's a lowbrow comedy act. Who knew that statement is born out of racism? The English settlers, everyone knows about Rwanda. There was a big massacre happened. The two tribes one tribe turned against each other, another one, and they killed like 1 million people in a month by hand. Something crazy like that. But what happened initially, decades before that, white people are the ones who came in and separated these people into different groups based on different things. And one thing was the distance between their eyebrow and their hairline. You know what I mean? And that was called lowbrow, which means you were dumb. You feel me? And, it makes sense because you see a lot of white people now who you wonder, like, why are they holding on to their damn hair? Like, this dude's hairline is really in the back of his head now. He got the George Jefferson thing rocking because the hairline starts, like, back in the middle of his head. Well, if he was back then when they were doing this measurement, he'd be the smartest dude in the world. Highbrow. Weird, right? You just learned something today. If you didn't know that before, you learned something. If you think I'm playing, if you think that's something that I made up, that's why I love the fact that we're in the information era. You can find it for yourself. You can always do the research yourself. You know what I mean? But again, we use the term black and white people very often. Lowbrow humor. I mean, people know. I mean, and it's changed. It's softened over time. Just like the N-word. It's softened over time. But if we continue to, just like I'm talking about, like I talked about it during the Oklahoma University thing, these black parents passing down the emotion to the next generation. Looting. I posted a tweet on our Instagram today at Sports Kings Live. 4 pictures of the Rodney King LA riots, which yesterday was the 23rd anniversary to that. And I said, it's funny how I didn't say that. I don't know what I said verbatim, but it's funny how history seems to repeat itself when no one corrects it. You know what I mean? These kids just instinctively do that. They learned it from somewhere. We gotta do better on just educating the kids. Let them know about the history, of course, but they don't need to walk around holding on to emotion that really has nothing to do with them on a personal level. You may have seen some bad things happen to your parents, or some bad things may have happened to you. But I promise you this, man. I heard someone with a lot of prominence in the city that I live in Atlanta, Georgia. He said it on air that he has told his son that it's not a matter of if someone calls him the N-word, someone of another color, it's when. What? You kind of got to let that happen, bruh, because I'm 38 years old, and that's never been done to my face. I'm sure somebody may have at some point. I might cut somebody off in traffic and, they let one ride, but I wasn't in the car, wouldn't hear it. But to just automatically, like, put that, to plant that seed, good luck. I ain't here to tell nobody how to parent, because there is no manual. and I don't have it if there is one. But I just felt like it was, that was a weird one. I don't know. I just spent 40 minutes talking about that again today, but the same rules apply. No issue is off limits. And the fact that I didn't get to do a show yesterday, so now I'm about to my mouth is going to open. I'm just going to vomit words and subject matter on this microphone because I had to swallow it back yesterday. I actually started recording the show, the hours yesterday, and something I did. It was my fault. Something I tweaked within my system set the whole thing, haywire, and I couldn't rebound from it. And ish happens. But right now, we're gonna take a look back. Today is April 30th. Excuse me, the very last day of April. So we're gonna take a look back. I think it's the last day. Does April have 31 days in it? Anyway, one of the last days of April. Quickly, let me check. Yes, last day of April. Just the time of the show. We usually do it earlier than now, but we'll do it now. We take a look back at some of the great accomplishments that happened in the world of sports, and it's called On This Day.
It's the Sports Kings.
On this day. Okay, Rob. Oh, Rob's not here. Rob's in Sin City, sinning, doing God knows what. I ain't even heard from Rob either. I texted him like twice. He pulled one of my numbers on him. Like I rarely return Rob's text, but he didn't return mine today. So he's out there doing his thing, getting ready for this fight. But you guys, on this day in 1922, Charlie Robertson of the Chicago White Sox threw a perfect game against the Detroit Tigers. On this day in 1939, Lou Gehrig played his last game with the New York Yankees. He had played 2,130 consecutive games. On this day in 1940, Belle Martell was licensed in California by the state, or back up. Belle Martell was licensed in California by state boxing officials. She was the first American woman prize fight referee. Look at that. Had a woman in there in 1940. That's like at the heart of the women's right movement, right? On this day in 1970, Billy Williams of the Chicago Cubs became the first National League player to play in 1,000 straight games. On this day in 1971, the Milwaukee Bucks beat the Baltimore Bullets in the fourth straight game of a championship series. Check this part out. They were only the second team in Major League history to take another team out in 4 straight games. See, it sounds like we're talking about basketball. Yeah, the Bucks and the Bullets, Milwaukee and Baltimore. Guess what? Baseball. I think that's what this means. Don't quote me on that. And on this day in 1989, Bill Shoemaker won his 1,000th. He won 1,000 stakes races. So I guess that means horse racing. Once again, you guys make sure you take the time out while you're Googling things. Google the jockey syndrome. Just Google that. One day we'll do a show on that. If it comes up and I can tie it into a certain current topic, we'll definitely do a show on that, or we'll have a discussion on that. And on this day in 1993, Monica Seles was stabbed by Gunter Porsche, spelled like the car. He ran out on the court after her match and stabbed her in the upper back, which I guess would be around your shoulder, your clavicle, I guess. On this day in 1996, the New York Yankees and the Baltimore Orioles played the longest 9-inning game in Major League Baseball history. The game took 4 hours and 21 minutes. I think that record has been broken since then. On this day in 1997, Riddick Bowe announced his retirement from boxing to pursue a career with HBO Cable Network. His career record was 40-1 with 32 knockouts. I wonder why he's not. I wonder why I haven't heard anything from him talking about being the greatest. 40-1. That's a good look, especially with Floyd trying to avoid being 37 or 47 and 1 after this fight on Saturday. I mean, that's weird. Wonder why they found him and asked him, is Riddick Bowe dead? Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he is. On this day in 1997, the Atlanta Braves set a Major League